originally by Duffy. And starting out with this poem, it is written in the first person point of view, which is noted through the word usage of we and I. And the overarching theme or the idea of this piece is going to be kind of adapting to a new lifestyle, new habits, a new culture. The speaker addresses within all three stanzas that he or she is frustrated by the fact that they're having to change their whole lifestyle, and they're saddened by the fact that this isn't a choice that they chose to make. However, it's something that they're going to have to adapt to within this new environment. And the conventions I noticed in this poetic piece include tone, include imagery, as well as symbolism and similes. So I will be discussing these 4 tones within the piece, and I'll go ahead and get started now. So starting off with the first stanza, it reads, "We came from our own town, we came from our own country, in a red room which fell through the fields, our mother singing our father's name to the turn of the wheels. My brothers cried, one of them bawling, home, home, as the miles rushed back to the city, the street, the house, the vacant rooms, where we didn't live anymore. I stared at the eyes of a blind toy holding its paw." So kind of like analyzing this first stanza, we can tell that the speaker is a young child, because in lines 5 through 7, the speaker writes, "My brother cried, one of them bawling, home, home, as the miles rushed back to the city." So the speaker is obviously a sibling of brothers, and it seems as though the setting is that the family is traveling together. And in this lines 5 through 7, we notice the tone of the piece almost immediately. And it's almost like frustration, anger for having to move within such short notice. And we can tell that the speaker has a sense of loss of identity, possibly just confusion, and just kind of like in shock at the fact that everything is happening so quickly. And so in another sense, we can notice rhyme, which is another poetic convention that the author uses in the lines, "Which fell through the fields, our mother singing our father's name to the turn of the wheels." So fields and wheels kind of highlights the setting for this, obviously, as kind of like driving past open fields, possibly a new setting. I think there was a transition from Scotland, I believe, her old home in Scotland, to a new neighborhood in England, which you later find out further into the piece. But starting out with this first stanza, Duffy kind of capitalizes on that rhyme to kind of create kind of like a tone of the moving factor of this piece. And so then we continue on in the second stanza. I'll go ahead and read it out loud. It says, "All children in an immigration, some are slow, leaving you standing, resigned up an avenue, where no one you know stays. Others are sudden, your accent wrong, corners which seem familiar, leading to unimagined, pebble-dashed estates, big boys, eating worms and shouting words you don't understand. My parents' anxiety stirred like a loose tooth. In my head, I want our country, I said." So in this second stanza, the tone of the reader has not changed quite as much. And so in the line, "Your accent wrong," on line 17, that kind of shows the transition that she's made. Usually when you're moving from one place to another, it's obvious to tell if you're not from that area based on your accent. And this is a very relatable topic, as we can even see it today in America when someone has possibly immigrated from Russia or immigrated from Mexico. They have a strong accent just due to their roots and their tradition and where they grew up. And so the speaker says, "Your accent wrong." Probably another one of her classmates or one of the friends that she's met is addressing the fact that she noticed that she's unfamiliar with the new area that she's living in, and so she's having to adapt to this new environment, which is causing her to lose her cultural identity, which is kind of something that is strong to one, in a sense that where you grew up kind of defines your whole culture, your whole background, and all of that. And so, in another sense, the author writes, eating worms and shouting words you don't understand. And this highlights imagery, as she mentions the boys who she possibly goes to school with, and she's just trying to adapt to the new language and the new slang, because each country has their own slang that they may use, and maybe this speaker is unfamiliar with what is going on. And so then again, we're going to continue on with stanza 3. But then you forget, you don't recall or change, and seeing your brother swallow a slug, feel only a skelt of shame. I remember my tongue shedding its skin like a snake, my voice in the classroom sounding just like the nest. Do I only think I lost a river, culture, speech, sense of first space and the right place? Now where do you come from? Strangers ask, originally, and I hesitate. So in this, we can also sense tone in the last line, lines 35 through 37, which states, where do you come from? Strangers ask, originally, I hesitate. This is kind of like a rhetorical question where the speaker ends with not completely knowing where their past is, or if they identify with their new culture, or if they identify with their culture in the past. And the speaker also identifies a simile in the line, shedding its skin like a snake, and the author uses like. Thank you.